Welcome back, everyone. Since I created this channel, I've had many requests to do an episode on what to know and expect when interviewing for a candidate legal practitioner position. I was initially hesitant to do this episode, as there's no uniform way in which legal practitioners conduct interviews. However, I'll explain what I personally expect from a prospective candidate in an interview. I will also give some personal tips when it comes to applying for positions and attending interviews. Before we start, please remember to hit that subscribe button. Applying for candidate legal practitioner positions. Whether you're applying for an advertised post or just trying your luck with a firm, the following is imperative. Your spelling and grammar must be perfect. There should be no spelling or grammatical mistakes on your CV or in your email to the firm in question. Use capitals where appropriate and remember your punctuation marks. If English is not your first language or you tend to struggle with spelling in general, have someone check your CV for any mistakes. I am adamant about the accurate use of the English language. As a candidate and even as an attorney, you will constantly send emails and draft important documents, so above average spelling and grammar is critical. It also looks lazy and careless if there are too many mistakes on your CV. It is often a job requirement that the applicant submits a cover letter together with their application. Even if it is not a requirement, do it anyway. Obviously, doing a separate cover letter for each job post will take forever, so having a generic cover letter is fine, but you must at least tweak it a bit before sending it off to different firms. Relatively personalized cover letters are appreciated, and best believe we can always tell when one is entirely generic. I recently received an applicant's cover letter which made reference to our large and respected blue chip company client base. Firstly, I work at a relatively small firm with only a few large clients, and secondly, the applicant would not have any knowledge of who our clients are. I could immediately tell that the cover letter was totally generic. In your cover letter, show that you have done a bit of research on the firm by, for example, mentioning some of the fields in which it practices or some of its recent achievements. Make sure not to mention that you're interested in a field of law in which the firm does not practice. Don't say you're excited to attend bail hearings if the firm does not practice criminal law. That would be silly. The contents and layout of your CV are so important. As already mentioned, good spelling and grammar is crucial. Keep your CV relatively simple, but don't exclude anything you deem important. I don't care that you received a merit badge in grade 4, however I am interested in the fact that you passed your LLB degree with distinction. Assess what is worthy of being included in your CV. It is probably wise to include at least the following contents in your CV. Your personal information such as your full names, race, email address, cell number, and so on. If you have a driver's license and/or a vehicle, indicate that you do. Although firms may no longer require articles applicants to possess a driver's license or vehicle, preference will likely be given to those who do. It is unfortunate, but driving is part of most candidates' weekly activities. I'm not sure what the solution to this is, but it's not relevant for the purposes of this episode. A short summary of yourself. Make brief mention of your qualifications, prior work experience, skills, and personality traits, amongst other things. Specifics of your prior work experience. Include dates and references. You can also indicate what your duties were. Details of your qualifications and education history. If your marks were good, include them. Even if they weren't amazing, you can include them as well. Take note that in most cases, you will be requested to submit your academic transcripts and other supporting documents when you apply for a role. Make sure you have these documents on hand. Dress code for interviews. Make sure to dress appropriately for interviews, even if the interview is conducted virtually. Dress smart. Gents, wear a suit or at the very least a blazer and a tie. Ladies, you can either wear formal pants and a blazer or a smart dress or skirt. I would always suggest a blazer of some sort. Look neat as well. A sloppy appearance just gives off bad vibes. Wear deodorant rather than laying yourself in your favorite cologne. You shouldn't be the only thing anyone can smell within a 10-kilometer radius. If you're a smoker, try your best not to smell like smoke. Preparing for interviews. Before you attend an interview, make sure to read up a bit on the firm in question. Know the size of the firm and the areas in which they practice. Understand what the firm's goals and beliefs are. This can all be found on the firm's website. Consider the potential questions you may be asked and prepare a response in advance. This is only so that you don't get caught off guard. Remember, your nerves may make answering basic questions harder than usual. Make sure, however, not to answer the question in a completely rehearsed, word-for-word manner. Rather just have a rough idea as to how you would answer certain questions. Practice makes perfect. Consider creating a mock interview by asking a friend or family member to interview you. Practicing in the mirror is not a bad idea either. Do not be late for the interview. Leave earlier if you need to. Being late is an immediate red flag for me. Being late for work is acceptable at times depending on traffic, roadworks, etc., but not for an interview. Being late indicates that you have poor time management and planning. Make sure to bring your CV along with you to the interviewer. The interviewers will likely have your CV in front of them, so it will be beneficial that you do as well. Consider popping a rescue or two before the interview, or do whatever it is that makes you calmer. Interviews are not meant to be scary, but if you get nervous easily, rather do something to take the edge off. And no, I don't mean take a couple of shots of tequila. Finally, research any big developments in the legal industry. For example, know that the Gauteng division of the High Court is mostly online now. It may assist you. Also consider going through the various court's rules in case you're asked any theoretical or practical questions. Conduct during interviews. The manner in which an applicant conducts oneself in an interview says a lot about them. If the interview is in person, make sure to shake each interviewer's hand firmly and introduce yourself to each. If they are already seated, it may not be necessary to shake hands, but you must formally introduce yourself. The same applies to virtual interviews. Express that you are grateful for being afforded the opportunity to be interviewed and thank the interviewers for their time. Conduct yourself in a positive and enthusiastic manner. Make sure to speak with clarity and confidence. Nervous mumbling will not get you very far. Confidence is key. Cliché, I know, but it really is. I understand that interviews can be intimidating, but realistically there is nothing to be scared of. If you bomb the interview, so be it. It's not the end of the world. Try not to make your nerves too apparent. Retain eye contact. If there are several interviewers, look at who is asking the question, and then when responding you can briefly lock eyes with each. When you sit, unbutton your blazer, and when you stand, button it up. Also, sit up straight, leaning slightly forward. This shows that you're attentive. Slouching and leaning back in your chair do not look good. Before you leave, make sure to say a formal goodbye and thank the interviewers again for the opportunity. You can also mention that you look forward to hearing from them. Questions you may be asked during interviews. This list is not exhaustive as not every firm conducts interviews in the same manner. However, you can expect some of the following questions. Can you tell us about yourself? What do you consider to be your strengths? What do you consider to be your weaknesses? What interests you about our firm? How would you benefit our firm? Why should we hire you? Where do you see yourself in 5 or 10 years? Where do you stay? Do you have your own vehicle or do you use public transport? Do you have any prior working experience for a law firm? You may also be asked some scenario-based questions. Examples of scenario-based questions could include, in a consultation with a client, how would you respond to a legal query to which you do not know the answer offhand? A director of the firm gives you a call at 8 p.m. requesting your urgent assistance with a task. How would you respond? A client calls you to express his dissatisfaction with the way you handled one of his matters. How would you handle the call? In some circumstances, you may be required to answer theoretical or procedural questions. I dislike when firms do this as most of your learning will happen on the job. Nevertheless, if you would like to be prepared in such a situation, familiarize yourself with the various courts rules and the Legal Practice Act. Also note that there are often several rounds of interviews, depending on how far through the process you make it. Questions may differ depending on whether it's your first, second, or third interview. How to answer interview questions. Don't panic when you ask a question. Your brain knows the answer, so give it 2 seconds and then respond. Keep your tone calm and focused as opposed to shaky and rapid. It's not that easy, I know. Be honest with the interviewers, but not too honest. Don't say your favorite field of law is criminal when the firm in question only does labor. Don't say your biggest weakness is stealing from companies at which you work. Quite obvious. However, be honest about your strengths and interests, etc. You should have already practiced how to answer these questions. Elaborate on your answers. If you're asked what your best skills are, don't just answer with public speaking. Elaborate on this. Explain that you have previously been debate champion in school, for example. There would have been many scenarios in your life where you applied your skills. As mentioned already, initially respond to the individual who asked the question, after which you can slowly lock eyes with the remaining interviewers, if there are several. You should be able to answer all the questions put to you, so don't ever respond with "I don't know." If you need clarity on a question, ask the interviewer to repeat himself or to rephrase the question. Thereafter, take it slow and proceed to answer it in the best way possible. If you're asked any inappropriate questions, respond with "I'm not sure how that's relevant to my application," or use a similar polite phrase. Make sure to highlight where you have excelled. If you received your degrees cum laude, for example, make sure to mention that. You will very likely be asked to tell the interviewers about yourself. Don't proceed to tell them you have 3 dogs and a budgie. Keep it relevant. Say you like to read law-based books and help the community in your spare time, provided it's true. Interviewers don't care that your parents are divorced, unless the divorce has possessed you with skills that would render you a valuable employee. Finally, elaborate on any prior experience you have had with tasks which may be expected of a candidate legal practitioner. Questions you should ask. Usually in interviews, the applicant will be given the opportunity to ask a few questions. Don't ever say that you have no questions, as this may come across as though you are disinterested or that you have done no research on the firm. There should, in any event, be some questions to which you would like the answer. Some of the questions you could ask. What are some of the firm's competitive advantages? What would you expect from me on a day-to-day basis? What do you expect from a candidate legal practitioner? Which departments would I be assisting? Where do you think the firm is headed in the next 5 years? Can you describe the working culture at the firm? What do you enjoy most about working here? What are the skills and experiences you're looking for in an ideal candidate? I've read about the firm's areas of expertise, but can you tell me more about, and then you insert the expertise? There is no specific type of question you should ask, as long as it is relevant. Also, don't ask a million questions. The interviewers don't want to spend an hour answering questions. Questions you must not ask. There are some questions you just shouldn't ask. Some of these questions include: how many leave days do I get? Can I leave early if I finish my work? Will I have to work long hours? What kind of benefits do you offer? How regularly do you give increases? Do I get my own office? Will you monitor my social network profiles? Want to do some heroin in the parking lot? At the end of the day, an interview is simply a conversation. Try and see it as such. I hope that the contents of this episode will be of valuable assistance when it comes to interviews. As always, if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. See you next time.